All right, we're back. It's the SilmFilm script discussion, season 2, back to episode 2, part 4. Part 4. Haha. Counting confirmed.
Yay! Numbers.
I think we've made it into Act 2. I think we've made it into Act 2. After much discussion of eunuchs.
Did we come up with another thing to put in front of the Varda? And
no, that's now your department. You can't come up with problems and then not fix them.
What happens is we all took a step back and you didn't. Classic.
I've fallen prey to one of the classic blunders.
Yes, you did.
The most famous, of course, is never start a land war in Asia.
But only slightly less well known is this: never going against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
Yes, that was the reference I was making, Nick.
I couldn't. Yeah, I know, but I couldn't help it because it's
like once you start those lines, you have to finish them
extremely well.
Especially from another Italian.
It has food.
What?
Especially from another Italian, I should have known better.
Ooh. Yes. Is your family Sicilian?
Yeah, actually. Well, my grandfather is Sicilian, which is not necessarily the same thing as my family being Sicilian.
Yes, I agree. Well, my grandmother is Sicilian, but all the Italian family members that I used to see more often than not were from that side of the family. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Were not a real thing until I was 13, which is embarrassing to admit on camera, but true. I'm like, it's in the Princess Bride. Fake. Sicily's not a real place.
That's awesome.
It's really embarrassing. Just you and me and the internet.
Yes, also Australia is not a real place, too.
I'm sorry, okay?
I'm going to go around telling people I'm a magical person from now on. That's all it takes. Someone once thought that Sicily was magic fairyland.
That's okay. According to the boot people, we're not real Italians either, so yeah. It's cool. Anyway, so you like how I call them the boot people? That's
awesome.
The
boot people. That's the perfect name for them.
So
mainland Italy, I think, would have worked.
But it's much more fun to say the boot people. Anyway,
fair enough.
We're on the internet for all the world to see. Anyway, so
mild racism in the morning, no big deal.
Yeah, sure, or the evening. For those of us who live on the right side of the international date line.
See there.
So. Okay. I just can't. All right,
So for the time being, we're cutting to Orome and his sort of integration into their society for how long that lasts.
Yes, then we get the conversation between Varda and Olmo, the beats to which are Olmo is like, this is all going to end in tears, I just know it, you got to talk to him. Varda's like, I know you're right, I'll talk to him.
Maybe it doesn't have to go exactly like that. I
said beats, the beats of the conversation.
Okay. I just feel like Elmo being the brains of the operation is maybe giving him a little too much credit, but sure.
Okay, well, how would you prefer the conversation to go then?
I mean, he just has to be like real dark and stormy about it without having much idea of what to do with it.
Ooh, stormy. I like that. Clever.
He has to complain a lot, and like he basically just has to be like, this is absolutely the wrong thing to do, and then she needs to commiserate a little bit. Like I think she could kind of play, both angles and say like, well, yeah, all that's true, but, and then maybe he could ask her specifically to go.
Well, maybe they can end it with. I don't, she could say something to the effect of, I don't disagree with you. Decision.
I think this conversation, like I said, needs to kind of be Olmo, like, oh, is Olmo going to be a problem now? We lost the fire guy. Now we're going to lose water too.
Yeah.
And
she could he be maybe a little bit threatening then?
Yeah, like not necessarily threatening, but like it should be an open question. Like he should bring up the possibility that like he might go off and do something on his own, which he does do, right? But it should be kind of an open question, like how extreme that action is going to be. And her response. Go ahead, go.
Like you straighten your husband out or else kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Because I think that it does him a disservice a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just
I think it would be okay to show sort of the ability of Olmo is not line. I'm sorry. He doesn't.
Bravo.
He's not a follower necessarily. He is a little bit more of a free agent than everyone else, it seems.
Right.
So I'm playing that up, but I don't want it to be like talk to your husband because
she should want she should want to talk to Manwë on her, like that should be sort of her like I'll do you a solid and I'll talk to him, so that as sort of a means of keeping him like not losing him, basically. Like Varda's kind of Varda I think should be a little bit concerned for Olmo's sort of immortal soul, I guess, if you would call it that, right?
Maybe.
She's like, I hear what you're saying, and I don't think that you're wrong. I think you need to cool off and relax and not do anything rash and
go take a swim.
Yeah. And like
take a cold shower.
Manwë anyway.
Right.
So it would be totally fine with her to be like, I was gonna talk to him.
It's too bad because I was starting to get an image in my head of like they're talking on the shore and Olmo like comes up in this huge wave and gets gets a little bit threatening, and so her response is to just turn into this glowing bright
that's way too confrontational
thing of light and like shoot up into the sky and be over him.
Yeah, it's cool, but
it's cool, right? No, I agree. I agree with you.
I think you can have little tiny like hints of that where the ocean around him is kind of tempestuous, and she's kind of glowing a little bit more, but like making that sort of the centerpiece of their discussion is, I mean, they're not fighting, like he's almost mad, and she gets it, and she's like, okay, just don't go crazy. I think you're right. This is not a crisis.
Don't burn up the city just because your side lost.
Yeah.
I think I do like the ocean getting stormy thing, but and it doesn't change the dialogue either way we do it, but more he's being kind of vulnerable. He's talking to someone about his concerns. Olmo doesn't always do that. Sometimes he just kind of does stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting to sort of contrast his worries with, or like, if we see something that he loves, and it's peace, he's showing a side of himself that isn't just threatening loose cannon Olmo.
Yeah.
Genuine and open, which he isn't usually.
Yeah, he's venting. He's not threatening.
Yeah.
Like Olmo himself should not necessarily see it in terms of like, oh, this is where I'm gonna go bad, right? Like that should not really be on his radar. And Varda is the one who's like, look, what you're saying is you're going about this the wrong way, and it's gonna be to your detriment, right? Like you need to cool off. What you're saying is not wrong, but just don't overdo it. Like, take a deep breath, and we'll figure this out.
Don't be such a wet blanket.
Stop! No more water puns.
I know we need to move on soon, but I do think it's interesting that I just don't want Varda to be just this go-between, like, they could talk to each other. She doesn't have to be the one that talks to Manwë just because they're a thing. But these concerns, And so to hear someone else that she respects,
Yeah.
her own, can be kind of a motivating factor for her. So it isn't just I am Hermione who is talking to Harry and Ron because they won't talk to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, and we've established this sort of thing between them before.
Right.
The thing in season 1, if memory serves.
That's why I really didn't care for that characterization of this is what's wrong with everything, and you should go tell your husband. Okay, I will. Like,
okay.
That
all
doesn't
right. No.
reflect the relationship we've built with them, you know?
Okay. That's fair. All right. I like it. I like it. So getting back into Act 2, we have the selection of the ambassadors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have some discussion amongst the elves for that. We see them preparing to leave. We get the discussion between Muriel and Finwë, where we don't necessarily now get the indication that she may not wait for him this time, which we kind of wanted. In the previous iteration, we were kind of going for that vibe.
I think we can still have her express the doubt of, wait, if we went and lived with the Valar, then we would be the Valar's servants, and we don't want to do that, do we? Like, she can still be the voice for that point of view.
Yeah.
And then be like, I don't know how I feel about this, you leaving thing. Like, she can just have a lot of doubts in general. So their leave taking isn't just like, bye, honey, see you later. There's a little bit more of a,
it's right.
I'm not okay with this, but we'll talk about it later.
Like, I think most of her naysaying kind of should be specific to their relationship. When he says, I'll be back, she's like, I sure hope so, right? Like,
yeah.
And I think it's a little too, I don't like the idea that she's gonna compare, you know, their life in Valinor to being servants. Like, that I feel like is sort of a direct result of Melkor, like, spreading lies, and that's kind of the domain of Feanor, really, right? Like, I guess there's something to it to give it to his mom.
We do have Ale kind of suggesting that they're going to be the pets of the Valar if they go there.
Yeah, that works for me, though. Like, coming from someone who goes to Valinor and really loves it, like, I can't imagine someone who had that suspicion going to Valinor and really being convinced by anything. You know what I mean? Like, that's why Ale doesn't go.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
I do think it's interesting that being servants, like, that kind of hierarchical structure.
Exactly.
Well, that's why I said that they would compare it more to being pets, because they have what one would assume at this point they've domesticated some animals.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Animals have domesticated themselves because they want to be around the elves.
Yeah.
Yes, because the elves are super cool. Yes.
Yeah, I think pets is better than servants, because the idea that they would even have a concept of like a serving class.
Right? Like, it doesn't really work.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Although she could express concern about the vague concept of them being under the Valar.
I agree.
But why would she be concerned about that? Like that?
Because they're clearly because the Valar are clearly higher than them. They've met Orome.
Right, but
he's
like,
big and glowy and a little scary.
Natural order, basically.
Yes, it is the natural order, but that doesn't mean that they like. I'm not like, if an alien race came to Earth and were clearly superior to us, I would be a little hesitant to go and live on their planet.
Really, the same thing, right? Like the hierarchy that exists in the. Like, they're not the elves are not the servants of the Valar, right? And
I understand that, but they don't. But she does not know.
The reason to put it in at this point is that Muriel does become the servant of Valar.
Right.
So that is her ultimate fate. So to have her worried about that fate in the beginning and end up with that fate later on, it just, it kind of... But we don't have to do that. We certainly don't need to put that concern in Muriel's mouth, and I am fine with her focusing on but you're leaving right now, because that's what this is. This is like a military deployment where you're going to be separated for a year and not be able to talk to each other very much.
Yeah.
Or at all, in this case.
In this case at all, but I meant real life.
I know what you mean.
I guess my just to reiterate a little bit more on this idea, I think my main issue is that to me, Ael's desire not to be a quote unquote pet is a reflection of who he is as a person, right?
Yes.
It's a reflection of the fact that he is strongly independent, but he's also like a petty sort of douchebag who worries about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like he's, and I don't feel like that. I don't feel like any of our Valinor elves, for the most part, would in and of themselves worry about that kind of thing, because that's just not the sort of people that they are. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing, though, is that to the elves who don't really know the Valar that well yet,
right?
That's a 100% viable concern. They don't really know what it is they're signing up for here.
Yeah, but that's, again, like, Ael is an inherently pessimistic kind of person, right? Like, that's just the nature. That's part of what makes him such a great villain, is that he
Okay. So what are Finway's concerns then before he goes?
Yeah, Finway
is supposed to be a little bit skeptical of this whole going to Valinor thing.
Right.
Finway's major and this is why I think Muriel's expression should stay related to their relationship. For me, Finway's biggest concern is his relationship with Muriel, and the fact that it's being deferred for, history, basically. Like, we're gonna make history, and I've got to go off and do this thing that I have to.
Right, but the host did request that we have Finway have some concerns before he gets to Valinor.
All right, so what are his concerns then? What aside from his relationship being deferred, what else could he possibly be nervous about with regards to? Does he just not trust Orme and think he might actually still be the Black Rider, or is he over that?
I don't think he thinks that. I don't think he would go. Orme is going to turn out to be the Dark Rider.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's not a fear of that, but he doesn't know who these other Valar are, so it could just be I don't know until I see it with my own eyes.
I need more information.
Yeah.
It could be I need to see this with my own eyes before I can make any decisions.
Right. I don't know how this is going to work out. I mean, granted, he hasn't met Ala yet, and he interested in what Orome
represents.
Right. It's not like Orome's all about adventure and galloping across the world, and does Finway care about that?
Yeah.
Right.
His sons do.
The Celegorm will.
Yes.
I mean, it could just be trepidation about leaving the place that you've spent your time. And you literally woke up at,
yeah.
And I would be hesitant to leave, if only because any number of terrible things can happen. So even if they don't think he's a Dark Rider, even if they don't have suspicions that the Valar are evil aliens, just leaving is anxiety causing for. So I don't know. It could be.
I'm afraid if we offer that as his reasoning, that we're going to get accusations of making him too weak and cowardly. Yeah, again.
Well, it depends what he does with it. He can just be the one who looks back wistfully as they're leaving.
Wistfully. But I mean, people are gonna confuse that with him looking at Muriel, though, and I think those two things. They're related.
They can go together.
Distinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think we're okay for that.
Okay. All right. So we get that. We get them riding off into the sunset. Do we cut immediately to their arrival, or do we feel like we want to put something in there first to cover up the travel again, to bunny sled them by?
do we need to have anything else happening? Do we need to have the conversation between Manwë and Varda before the elves arrive?
Yep.
I think we could, yeah. That would be a good thing to put in there.
Well, here's the thing. I would actually like to save that conversation for Act 3.
Okay.
Because if we have that conversation in Act 3, then he can say, maybe you should talk to them. Have you tried talking to them?
Mm-hmm.
And Varda would be like, oh, well, I didn't talk to them. Maybe I should talk to them. She talks to Inwë, and I'm not sure how yet, but that conversation is what converts her over to
Mm-hmm.
this is the right call.